a playlist original.
Alrighty, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster with your hosts, Gaius and Jackson. How's it going, buddy?
Man, it's going fantastic. Just got off a long weekend for me, not holiday related, but got to spend some time in another city. Got to visit some of my best friends, and honestly, I'm just so hyped right now because I got off. You ever have one of those movie watching experiences that just kind of obviously you love movies, but you have one of those watches that reignites your passion for cinema and like kind of reminds you and grounds you into why you love movies so much. I had one of those watches over the weekend, and I've been dying to talk about it, and it sounds kind of ridiculous. Someone that loves movies of the caliber that we do, this is the first time I ever watched Ferris Bueller's Day Off on Friday night with one of my best friends.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, that was hilarious. You text me.
I messaged you right
messaged
away.
me that. Yeah, you messaged me that, and I could feel your enthusiasm like through the DM about
I was
the
like
movie.
halfway watching. I was like, I gotta let him know like how like the movie truly lives up to the hype, and he might even surpass it. It was way better than I even could have thought, and I had so much fun watching it. And don't know why I kind of underlooked or had forgotten that it was John Hughes. Like I knew that I know his big ones, and I know he had done movies that I probably hadn't like seen before, but like just kind of struck me that it said written and directed by John Hughes. And after his name rolls across the opening credits, I'm like, okay, I know we're in for a really good. This is going to be better than I even realized. But yeah, to anyone that's listening is probably like, okay, how did you let this much time go before you see it? Came out in 86 and still to this day, I think insanely relevant and definitely holds up over all these years later. It has a lot of longevity to it. And I will be watching this one again soon.
Yeah, I was. Okay. So when that came out, I was all of two.
Right. That's right.
When that movie was released, I saw that was my first John Hughes movie though.
Nice.
That I saw, and it is, God, it's a near perfect comedy. I think. I mean, there's nothing really wrong with it. It's like it's pretty fun.
10. I rate it on
IMDb
from
start to finish.
Yep.
Yeah, it's from start to finish. It's pretty funny. It's a good freaking vehicle for Matthew Broderick. He like kills it. I mean, everyone in the movie is really good.
Everyone,
but of course
fantastic.
Of course he's leading the charge in that. I was disappointed to learn. I mean, it seems like things got better as the filming progressed, but John Hughes, Matthew Broderick said that John Hughes was like kind of difficult to work with in the beginning, and he found himself like, I guess, giving Matthew Broderick like kind of like notes, but like they weren't really like constructive notes. Like, hey, like, oh, I don't like what you did in that one particular scene. Okay, well, explain like kind of what I did that you didn't like. And he's kind of, well, I can't really explain, that kind of passive aggressive. I can't really explain it. Just do it different. And and I think I forgot who he said the person that he wanted, but he thinks initially that he didn't really necessarily want him for that part. But then that's what he kind of felt. But I read elsewhere that John Hughes really likes him for the part. So maybe it might be a matter of like miscommunication.
Yeah,
and like
I read
like
after that John Hughes didn't think anybody but Matthew Broderick could pull off the role.
Yeah,
so the reliability of that though, but
it might be Matthew Broderick kind of reading into it differently back then.
Perhaps.
But he said things got better as filming progressed. But you hate hearing about those little things about movies you love. You're like, oh well, I wanted it to be like all kumbaya on set. That would have been great.
100%. I'm sure that he had. And I don't know, this is complete speculation, but he would have been hot off the success of Breakfast Club from the year before. Like, definitely was a titan of the teen angst comedy at that time and had a vision. And I'm sure he really wanted to follow up that success. And like I told you, like I have to rank those movies against each other, I think, here soon. Because I've seen Breakfast Club many times. I had not seen this yet. And I feel like this is the most I've enjoyed a film in I don't know how long. At least one that like from like that far back. Like there's been some new releases I've quite enjoyed, but I definitely look forward to stacking those up against each other because that movie just blew me out of the water.
Yeah, so I told you Breakfast Club is my favorite of the John Hughes movies. It was my second John Hughes movie, so I was like, whoa, this is even better than Ferris Bueller's Day Off. At least like, of course, they're very different movies. I mean, they're both funny, but Breakfast Club definitely has like a more dramatic lean to it during certain scenes. I always found it amazing that John Hughes could write teenagers so well, and also, and then maybe not knowing that this would maybe be the case, but universally writing them so well that even today those movies still feel very relevant, and they don't feel dated in their approach to teenage angst, because like it's like, oh, I definitely gone through some of that, like, so it's
certainly, especially because like the character of Cameron.
Yeah, and I would even say, even though I love my teen films of the late 90s, early 2000s,
yes,
I don't think that any of them, and like, I mean, anyone can like message us if you think I'm wrong, don't tap in a realistic way the way that those John Hughes movies did in the 80s. Like, there is something about them that, yeah, they're great, and like there's something about the 90s ones that are of the time that like, oh, I recognize that, I'm familiar with that. Yes. But the overall like raw emotion of them, I think the 90s didn't even match what John Hughes was doing.
You're not hearing any arguing from me, man. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Like, the 80s just holds such a special place in like cinema history for me. Like, it's my favorite decade, probably by a landslide. And I think like this would be another example of like why that is. And you're right. He writes, his comedies have such a substance to them beyond just what you're seeing on the screen and like the funny antics that the characters get up to from beginning to end, that I think is really not present from, I think, pretty much since, at least not to that degree. They're not, that substance isn't present in comedies since that era. Right. You're definitely right. There are some awesome teen comedies, and there's definitely some standouts from the 2000s as well, like Superbad, that really hit the nail on the head. But for the most part, I don't think we get them like we did when John Hughes was making them, and it really shows. And definitely after seeing so much like stuff just slogged from the machine over the years, like seeing this with a brand new set of eyes, brand new for the first time, like really was eye-opening as to how great of a filmmaker he was.
Yeah, I mean, a great writer, a great filmmaker. And it's funny too, because when we did Can't Hardly Wait, I think it was Mark, or maybe you or Mark, that mentioned that like it seemed like Can't Hardly Wait in some ways was like very much influenced by like the John Hughes like 80s teen movies. But even in that influence, though, even though there are characters in Can't Hardly Wait that you can identify with, there's also a little bit of a character that are attached to some of them where it feels like they're not complete. They don't feel totally real. At least all of them. Like when you're watching like a John Hughes movie, like every single person almost feels like a living, breathing person that you could know. Like you're like, oh, I either was that person in high school or I knew that person in high school. And that is very unique thing for, I've always been amazed that he could do that. Like, and he wasn't a teenager anymore, of course, like writing this stuff. So like, but he could really speak to youth then, and was able to maintain that voice even now with those movies. And interesting thing about though is that I love Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller, and then the other two that are frequently mentioned are like 16 Candles and like Pretty in Pink. They are good, but they're good, but I always think they're like a little bit lower than them as far as like, quality. And not, it's hard to say that. I don't think they're bad. They're highly entertaining.
But those other two are definitely his like magnum.
Breakfast Club and Ferris Bueller is so good. Yeah. But definitely, you can't go wrong with a full John Hughes teen movie night if you wanted to do that.
I'm thinking of just binging like his more mainstream filmography here, because it's been a while. There's some like 16 Candles and Pretty in Pink I have not seen. I got my mom for, was Mother's Day or her birthday a few years ago, like this special edition of 16 Candles, because she loves that movie and loves Molly Ringwald. So we have that set aside sometime when we make the time to watch it. And I feel like this might be the catalyst for that. And I definitely got to revisit Breakfast Club, because I found myself in this not existential crisis, but kind of in a way of where I don't know, like, did this just challenge this movie for me? Because like I hold Breakfast Club to such a high standard, and that's not that my enjoyment for Ferris Bueller or whatever like take away from that movie, but like I think I just found like a genuine competitor for my favorite John Hughes. So anyway, I've been dying to get that off my chest. I loved it so much. It felt so good to come off a watch like that. It was fantastic, and I did it in a double feature with another first time watch for the most part. I think I saw about half of this movie one time, but How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. We went back to back on it. So it was a good little Friday night movie watch. It was fun. Yeah.
So that's a solid rom-com. I mean, it kind of started the whole, for better or worse, it started Matthew McConaughey doing a lot of those movies in a row. Like
was that
romantic
like
comedies.
one of his earlier ones? I didn't know if he had been doing them.
So that one was that was the first one that like, it was a huge hit when it came out.
Right.
And then they were like, all right, keep doing that. Just do that. And then they actually had him re-team with like Kate Hudson again for Fool's Gold, I think. It didn't do as well. And then he did like Failure to Launch and Ghosts of Girlfriends Past. He did so many in a row after that movie.
Until Killer Joe came around.
Yeah, there you go. And then, like, and that's what you need to get. That's what you need to break out of the rom-com fans.
That's right.
But I actually like the hook and How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, and I actually think they're both very
really clever. Yeah, and we mentioned this even in the last episode we just recorded that's not my genre at all, but like I had a good time watching it. Yeah. Kate Hudson, I don't think I'd seen her act in anything. Really did not know what I was going to get out of her, and I thought she was like quite enjoyable, honestly.
How did that one come about for you to watch? As a double
so I was watching this with my good friend, like my oldest friend, Madison. So shout out Madison on the chance that you're listening. I think we were just kind of sitting in her and her boyfriend. It was the three of us. We were just sitting on the couch and browsing, and we can go on a browsing binge. Like she knows like how much I love movies, and we're probably trying to settle on one that we're all gonna like.
That everyone be happy with.
And then I had mentioned, I was like, I haven't seen Ferris Bueller because I think we were on Netflix. And she goes, okay, that's it. That's what we're watching. I was like, yes, because that's what I wanted to watch. Yeah. And I'm glad we weren't watching I didn't know we could have watched anything. Like we ended up the next day watching some god awful new Netflix comedy that I could hardly stand. I knew I was going to get something good when we watched Ferris Bueller. And then after that, it was like still fairly early in the night. And I don't remember exactly, but we kind of came across something more up her alley, but that I was on board with watching. And so we threw that on at her suggestion and thought it was awesome. I mean, I'm always down for Matthew McConaughey, and I needed to see it's of the rom-com era. Like that's definitely one of the top ones. So I needed to be in on it, but I did fall asleep for a bit, but not against the movie. That was on me.
Dude, romantic comedy. So they're like a mixed bag. So a lot of people assume that I like them. I like them a lot, and I don't really like them a lot. But the really good ones I do like.
How couldn't you?
So my favorite one is My Best Friend's Wedding. I think that one is like solid, like a solid romantic comedy.
Have not seen it.
It's Julia Roberts and Cameron Diaz, Dermot Mulroney. I always get confused with Dylan McDermott. So I had to make sure I said it right.
Dermot Mulroney is awesome.
And it's like such a Dermot Mulroney and Julia Roberts are best friends, and they promise each other if they're not married by the time I think it's 30 or something like whatever, they'll marry each other, premise? Right?
Okay.
And then he calls her and he's like, I have something to tell you. And he's like, Jules, like I met someone, and she's like flabbergasted. He's like, yeah, we're getting married, like whatever. It's so soon, right? And he wants her there because like I don't know if this is happening in real life, but he basically wanted her to be like almost like his best man because she was like, his best friend. Right. So Julia Roberts, who at this time is a romantic comedy queen, right? She's usually the good girl in those movies, like you're rooting for her.
Yep.
But she's systematically in a very funny way trying to like break them up.
Yes.
And but you also like Cameron Diaz, even though she's kind of her character's kind of like rich and snobby, but like she is a good person. She has a good heart.
Right.
And you have to watch, like, Julia Roberts is like pitch perfect in it though. Like she's just, you also need to like kind of you want to root for her too because it's Julia Roberts. It's like, we want you to win.
That's the love angle I think the audience is supposed to root for.
Right. Fun fact about that movie: it came out the same weekend as Batman and Robin, and by the end of its run, made more money. So there's that.
Wow. Okay.
There's that. But yeah, it's so funny and well done, and the cast is really good. But yeah, there's to add to that though. For every good one, there is a plethora of awful ones.
Certainly, yes, there are, and they really drag the genre down, unfortunately.
Which is why I think that they don't really do all that well in theaters anymore. The
trend has shifted, and box office talks.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, this was a solid double feature.
It really was. I was very happy. It was a great night of movie watching, and I was so enthusiastic, like you'd said, to chat Ferris Bueller. I can't believe I let it go that long, and I found myself really kicking myself. I really wish I'd watched this in my youth, like as an adolescent. Like this would have been such a good watch around high school time. Like I'll never get to experience that, and I really wish I had. But I'm glad I got it in when I did, because
I saw it young. I was young, but it hits different in high school. I remember when we watched it, maybe my sophomore or junior year. It definitely hits a lot. It definitely hits a lot differently because it really is the ultimate teenage fantasy. So like, I'm gonna skip school for the day, and then like none of that would happen to us. But like, it's cool that like, in movie world that could happen. And and then the character's such a likable dude. Like it's just, it's hard like not to root for him in some way.
I found funny. Like I found myself thinking like he's very much like not. I mean, there's moments, and again, I've only have the one watch under my belt, so I probably won't remember it as like vividly as yourself, who's seen it multiple times. But I remember thinking like very much that it feels like Cameron's story, and I feel like even though like what Ferris is doing, the decisions that he's kind of ushering him into throughout the movie are like in good spirits to kind of wake him up to the life around him, it very much gets him in trouble at his own expense, like many times throughout the movie. To the point where I was like, he's not exactly being what you would describe as a great friend.
Good friend.
But
that is true. That is true.
A lot to be said about that dynamic, and a lot has been said. I was like just YouTubing it afterwards to see what everybody said about it, because I really had no spoilers for that movie. I'd seen clips here and there and was aware of some scenes, but really did not know where that movie went, which again I would recommend to not spoil it if you're going to watch it. But really interesting first time watch, and
the thing is, I don't think I could trust anyone if they told me they didn't like it. I think I'd be like, okay, well,
hard
I guess you don't like.
See what would you not like?
Well, like, I guess you don't like you don't like good things. I guess.
I gave that a 10 out of 10. Y'all look at it more analytically upon rewatches, but just in terms of how that movie made me feel when I was done, it was one of those instant.
I think that is the overall thing that movie needs to do. I mean, it's not one you need to like kind of overly examine, right? It's not really deep, but the thing is, it makes you laugh. It's cleverly written too, and like the performers are I know I gave most of the credit to Matthew Broderick, but everyone's good in the movie. Alan Ruck's really great in it. Like the whole cast is they're having a lot of fun. You can tell that it was, I mean, other than maybe that few kerfuffle between John Hughes and Matthew Broderick, but like, it seemed like it was a fun thing to do. And like, I remember like, still to this day, but even more so when I was young, once you get to the whole like Dunkashane thing, and like, it's just like, you just feel so good by the time you get to that point in the movie. It's just like, you're like, wow, I want that. Why can't that be my life? I mean, when I skipped school, I definitely didn't have that adventure at all. I think I went to like this place called El Burrito Jr. that was right next to our high school, and like ditch with my friends to get Mexican food. That was the extent of my not going to class. It wasn't
definitely
nearly school.
Yes.
Yeah. Definitely wasn't getting expensive cars and shit and not all that madness. There was
That's the first thing my dad mentioned. I told my parents that we watched it, and he goes, "Oh yeah, how about the scene where they drive the Ferrari through the wall at the end?" I was like, "Yeah, crazy. It's funny that's so what I remembered." Yeah. Anyway, couldn't recommend enough to people that maybe haven't seen it, especially any listeners maybe at that time where that movie takes place, like those of you in late or any time in high school, like watch Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Could not recommend it enough. 10 out of 10 stars.
Yeah.
From Jackson.
Honestly, Jackson talking about watching it kind of inspired. Like I was like messaging him. I was like, dude, we should do like a director showcase on the show.
Yes.
Like
that was
picking
a
different one. And he would be a good one to do. I mean, because his movies are kind of all a little bit over the I mean, like he did a lot of good teen stuff. I mean, but there's various degrees of like some people think some are great, some are like kind of in the middle. Right. Like my friends love Weird Science. I haven't watched it in so long that I don't really remember much of it.
Okay, that'd be a good watch for us to chat about.
Yeah, I think I remember liking it in the moment, but I just haven't seen it in so long. Okay. But one of my buddies loves Weird Science. Like he was like, "Oh, he thinks it's better than Ferris Bueller's Day Off," and I was like, "Well, I mean, I can't say that right now because I need to rewatch it. But I'm pretty sure once I rewatch Weird Science, I'll be like, man, okay, it's okay to be wrong."
I've heard of Weird Science. Movie. Never could have told you it was John Hughes though, so that's interesting. I would definitely check that out.
I mean, he's written so many random. I mean, he wrote Home Alone. I mean, it's just so crazy. Like he's written so many things. Like
that's right.
And we lost that guy way too soon too. That's unfortunate.
2009 or something. Was it?
Yeah. Way too soon. Like he had a. I was
like, damn.
But all those. It's interesting because all those actors that people like Molly Ringwald that felt some kind of way about some of those movies, like especially showing them to her kids now. Like there's certain things that maybe don't age as well now in general. But I mean, for the most part, even her, like a lot of those actors talk about that time and then working with him and doing his stuff and how special it felt special then. And the fact that it's still special to not just people that grew up watching it then, like I mean, my brothers watched those movies. Like he was definitely not around when those movies were out in the 80s.
Right.
And I think they just have something very universal about them that not every writer can say that. So that's like,
No.
and he was really able to do that. I was like, I'll be watching those. I'm like, how do I identify with like teenagers from the freaking 80s? Well, I do.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But kudos to him. That means he just knew he knew exactly what
really
button
created
to
something
push when
special.
it came to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You also watched Mission Impossible, right? Or Mission Impossible
Fallout, the most recent one, in anticipation for Dead Reckoning, which I know we had discussed going through those this time. Like, this is only my second run through of those movies, and this time around I only started at Ghost Protocol, the fourth one, and man, like, just been having a blast watching those movies. It really, I mean, it's all thanks to Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie, but they really reignited my faith in like the modern action blockbuster. Those and the John Wicks, I think, stand apart from the rest. But Fallout was, again, it's been said, and I'll just reiterate it, but I mentioned off camera, best action movie of the last 10 years, to which you followed up ever. And yeah, I like can't even deny it. It's special.
It's solid. I mean, what they've been able to do. So here's how I look at it with the last, like the beginning with 4, I guess.
Yep.
I feel like what Brad Bird did with Ghost Protocol kind of set a new tone for where they could go. And then Christopher kind of took that and then amped it up times 10.
Yeah, ran with it. Absolutely.
And ran with it because, like, I mean, I think I told you that Ghost Protocol tends to be like the fan favorite. And I think that's because it reignited that franchise again after the third one. Like I told you, the third one is now probably considered the one that's probably better than you remembered it was. Because at the time it came out, like I told you, during the whole like Tom Cruise Scientology.
Was this after was it Katie Holmes that he was with when he was jumping on Oprah's couch?
Oprah's couch. There was that whole period of like, oh, like you're a lot right now.
Yes. But granted, I've always liked the third one, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I have too. I remember when I saw it in theaters, I was like, this is still pretty good. I mean, however you felt about him at the time, it was like, it's
much better than the second one, if you ask me.
Yeah, and I was like, yo, we got to give Philip Seymour Hoffman credit for being a fucking scary fucking villain. I mean, not just a good villain, but he was frightening. I was like, I don't know what this guy's going to do next. That's how frightening he was in it.
And who would have thought old Philip Seymour Hoffman would be that intimidating? But no, he really delivers.
Yeah, really good. I'm enjoying everyone on Instagram and Twitter rewatching these right now because it's been really cool to see like where they rank them. And I didn't really, I swear I didn't really notice this because I haven't watched it in so long. But like I told you, I'm looking online and I was like, I didn't know the second one was like, that's the shitty one. Apparently, like no one likes it.
Man, there are like 4 fake mask fake outs in the second one. It's literally ridiculous. It's so overdone. I don't really remember much else from the second one other than it opens up with, like I mentioned to you too, one of the crazier stunts in the whole series of Tom Cruise just free climbing that cliff and makes like probably an 8-foot jump. Like, of all the stuff he does in the movies, like subsequently, like hanging off a plane, climbing the Burj Khalifa, like that cliff climbing, like free climbing stunt is so nerve-wracking to watch. But when was the last time you went through all of them?
It's been a while. I think because I didn't watch all of them before Fallout.
Okay, see, that's what I watched.
So I think I think the last time I watched all of them was up with Rogue Nation was coming out, and that's when I rewatched them all again.
I see. Okay,
and I mean, overall, I mean, it's probably still one of the most consistent action franchises. I mean, if you're going to be nitpicky, the second one, a lot of people don't like it, but I mean, out of how many movies now? We're at 7.
Exactly.
Going at 7. If you got one stinker out of 7, then like I think you're in a pretty good.
And starting with the third, I'd say they increase in maybe arguably between 4 and 5. You can switch those around. They pretty much get better every movie.
I think what was cool about when Ghost Protocol came out is how they kind of platform released it, which is kind of like a weird thing to do for an action movie, but it opened in like a limited amount of theaters around like the Christmas like holiday, and it killed it in those limited amount of theaters, and everyone was like, oh, like this might be bigger than we thought, because the third one made money, but not as much as even the second one did. So it wasn't like a proven thing, and then there was a lot of like energy around Ghost. Like when I saw it like a week after it came out. I didn't see it in the limited release. It was when it went wide. I was surprised by how good it was, because I wasn't expecting. I mean, I was like, how much gas is left in this, basically? Because I wasn't thinking of it as like, you're gonna keep going and going and going with this.
I'm sure they didn't know.
it was, and that fourth one is like a shot in the arm. It's just like, this is like new. It's like we're starting from scratch. Not that I didn't like the third one,
right?
But it really felt like, all right, we're starting over, and like we're not playing, we're not fucking around. That's what it kind of feels like.
You're right.
I kind of wish we would have seen some of those newer characters in that one and the future ones. Like I know Jeremy Renner was in like the next one, but Paula Patton, I thought she was a good female presence in Ghost Protocol. Jonathan Rhys Meyers was pretty good in it too. I was talking to another critic on Twitter, and he was like, I thought it was interesting too that those couple of people didn't come back, because actually Paula Patton got a lot of good reviews for Ghost Protocol. Everyone liked her. Not sure why she never.
I don't know what it is.
I mean, they did. I mean, they ended up replacing her with some more great female energy in like in the next few.
Rebecca Ferguson's brought a great presence to those last couple of movies, and looking forward to her in this.
And I'm hearing Haley Atwell is amazing in this new one. She's getting a lot of kudos for her performance in this. Also, love in everyone's rewatch. I know it's not everyone's favorite, but I love the acknowledgement of at least the style of Brian De Palma's first movie. I kind of wish that they all had that. Like that first movie has like such a distinct like espionage spy thriller. Like it's really old school. Yes. And I don't think and it hasn't been matched by any of the rest of them in terms of like its visual style. And I kind of wish that they did that. That's the one thing I think Brian De Palma did really, really fantastic with in the first movie.
It's been a long time since I revisited his, but you're right. Where at least from 3 onwards, I feel they all really lean into the like contemporary action tropes and whatnot, and just are the best of like what we have from like modern action movies. Whereas you're totally right, Brian's is more of a classic espionage thriller.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, I'm also nervous. I'm nervous for Movie Web. I'm writing a feature this week about how I wish Tom Cruise would challenge himself more as an actor.
Okay.
Because he's just been, not that it's bad. I mean, he's good at this. I mean, he's a glorified stuntman now. Though I just kind of miss like a good performance from him. That's acting chops, which I feel like you haven't really seen. Someone said Tropic Thunder. Okay, I'll throw that in there. That was funny. But to me, I haven't really seen it since like Collateral, and I think that was in like 2008 or 9, whenever that movie came. Or that could be it could be even later than that.
Tropic Thunder is 2008. I think it's 2004.
Yeah, you're right. So that's a great. That's the last time I feel like I saw it. Like, I mean, this is a man who he's been nominated for Academy Awards. He's never won.
But
I don't see that happening anymore now. I don't think he's going to do any movies that will require him to flex his acting muscles as much as he probably should. Like, but when you point to like the strong Tom Cruise performances from like back, it's weird because I feel like his career, he did like the really good acting thing. And so like, it's kind of like the reverse where it's like, oh, you started off in a bunch of action movies and then you got settled, you got older, then you went to like kind of show like what you're made of as an actor. And that's how it should be. But he flipped. It was a 180. The opposite. Like, like Jack Nicholson gets a lot of credit for A Few Good Men, but it's Tom Cruise, what he gives him in that makes that Jack Nicholson performance great. Right. And then, Dustin Hoffman does steal the show in Rain Man, but it is also Tom Cruise having to play straight to that and having to like
his nom comes from.
Like wait, what?
Does Tom get nominated for Rain Man as well?
No, so he got nominated for Born on the 4th of July, Jerry Maguire, and Magnolia.
Okay.
So and he should have won for Magnolia. I mean, if there's anyone
or Jerry Maguire,
and I think you love Jerry Maguire. That's pretty solid. Have you seen Almost Famous?
No. Is Tom Cruise in that?
Oh, no, it's Cameron Crowe. So like that's why I thought if you've seen if you've seen Almost Famous, like the writing in Jerry Maguire is like so strong. That's why that movie's as good as it is.
I've had Almost Famous pulled out like just for a special day for some reason for so long, and I've never gotten around to it. But like I had my eye on that movie forever.
Dude, that was my high school movie, man, for a really long time. It was nice. It's such a good like coming of age story. Yeah, again, did not grow up in that time period, but I'm like, I understand it.
You don't need to
like everything about it. Everything about it.
That movie has a sequence on the bus where they're singing "Tiny Dancer" by Elton John.
Tiny Dancer,
I have like glimpses of that scene, and like that looks so awesome. I can't wait to watch that movie.
It's so good. But like Tom, like he used to do like really fun, challenging stuff. Like, I mean,
You're right.
Say what you want about Interview with the Vampire, but like, I mean,
I love him in that.
But Lestat, like that's a legit villain performance. Like he goes all in in that movie, and then of course like the last thing, and then we look at Collateral, another villainous performance too, where he went all in, and like that's what I kind of want from it because I think that he definitely has it in him. Like he's done it countless times,
right?
But now I feel like almost every role he's played recently is just a variation of Ethan Hunt. And that's kind of where we're at now. And I don't want to like, I'm thinking about writing it and I don't want to bash him because I think he's a showman. I've said it before. I think he's probably one of our last real living movie stars right now, as far as like,
absolutely,
the entertainment he provides. But I also know that he's capable of doing much more than like jumping off cliffs and holding on to airplanes and all that.
It's interesting because I always like, even just being fresh off the last 3 Mission Impossibles, I've enjoyed his performance in every single one. I do think that he lends a good acting performance, but you're right, it is very much the same role. One thing, this is a great like segue into like something I am kind of worried about, and I don't know, I guess I'll have to judge after we get Dead Reckoning Part 2, but he did have that quote recently saying that in following in the steps of Harrison Ford, he wants to be putting these movies out into his 80s. And I'm sure that a little bit of that is hyperbole, but the fact that he's still willing to make at least like many more of these, I'm kind of thinking like, nervous. Okay, like I am nervous. I have no doubt Dead Reckoning and Dead Reckoning 2 are going to be fantastic. But I'm like, at one point, do you go until you start to see a decline in quality, or should you kind of
go while you're on top?
Go out on top. Exactly. That's kind of what I'd like to see.
A la how John Wick should do things instead of making a 5th movie.
You're right. Maybe that'll be a kind of a lesson to be learned in the future.
Yeah.
We'll see how they go.
I was under the impression when they announced these as a part 1, part 2, that they were wrapping it up. But then, the director said that they've talked about more stories, and I was like, oh, all right. And of course, what Tom Cruise said about doing them well into his 80s, which I know could be like hyperbole or whatever, but I think he'll try. I think he'll definitely try. Now. And then that makes me like you're gonna be doing these movies for the rest of your life. Like, throw in a good drama in there for me.
Yeah,
man.
100%. I agree. I don't need to see Mission Impossible 12. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think any as great. And there's just such a legacy to these movies already. I just would hate to see it jeopardized or hindered in any way just by oversaturation, because we've seen that already with countless movie franchises. I don't want to say that about Mission Impossible, so I am worried, not gonna lie, but if they're good, I want more too. It's hard to draw the line.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, of course, have compared it, of course, without switching out, the main actor. It's compared a lot to like 007, like James Bond, and that keeps going and going. Of course, now they switch out.
Yes, so kind of
the leading actor, right? So it's a little different, but of course those go on too to various degrees of quality depending on how you feel about them. It's an interesting question, man. Like, because they feel like they've been getting better with each installment.
Yep.
So it's like, if you think you can keep doing it, I guess do it. I just want, he's like the acting equivalent of James Cameron. Like, I want you to do something else that's not just this. Like, I mean, like James Cameron, like I know you want to like stay in Pandora, but I would love for you to make something else. Like, I mean, that's 100%. How I feel about Tom Cruise a little bit.
Great comparison.
Because I am one of the people that doesn't care about Tom Cruise's personal life. I don't care about like the Scientology stuff. I don't care about any of that. Like, I mean, his job is to be a performer and put on a good show, and that's what he does.
Job damn well, and
he's leaned into that so much. I mean, he learned from that experience of like talking too much, and he stopped, and he just he just lets the work speak for itself, and that's the best that he should be able to do. And like, I respect him as someone. You can tell he loves cinema. At least I can tell that. You can tell that he really cares about movies and getting people out there to go see him. I loved the kind of public media support where he was like, I'm gonna go pay to go see Oppenheimer, I'm gonna go pay to see Barbie, you need to go see all these movies in theaters because we need to support each other. Like, I believe it when he says it. I mean, he really cares about the industry and the profession 100%. So at least there's that. At least you have someone that really wants to get it done right. But again, he should have an Oscar too. Like, he should be able to, I'm not saying he's so that, but like, Yeah, I'm not saying that he needs to work towards it, but like do something to like flex your acting chops a bit more. Like I saw a little of it in Top Gun Maverick with that scene with Val Kilmer. Like that was like, all right, there's that spark a little bit.
Also, like
but,
there's years in between these last few Mission Impossibles. Like Fallout came out in 2018, I believe. Rogue Nation was 2015. So we've had a few years in between. Like definitely enough to pump out some Oscar worthy performances, but maybe that's not, we've heard other actors say that's not what they're after, not what they're in it for. Like Sam Jackson has come out to say that he's not chasing an Oscar. Wouldn't be surprised and I guess he probably would have had them from producing credits, right? So
does he? He produced Top Gun Maverick. Right. So if that would have won, he would have gotten one. But I mean, and honestly and I don't think he's an actor that really necessarily chased Oscars either. I mean, I think the stuff he was nominated for, he just happened to be really great in, and they had to acknowledge him. I mean, it was just like, I don't think he was really like a lot of those movies, maybe Born on the 4th of July, but like, I don't even think that is. And Jerry Maguire didn't really feel like Oscar bait either, and neither did Magnolia. I mean, like Magnolia is a very deep drama. It's a lot going on in that movie, but I don't think any of those performances were like, oh, he's like, oh, this is going to be like my Oscar winning role. So I don't think he's interested either.
Right.
Yeah. I just want more from him, I guess.
I know. No, I'm with you. I wanted to take advantage though of the segue that you presented to us there to talk about Barbenheimer and the wonderful weekend that we are suddenly approaching, because as of
the most unlikeliest of box office showdowns.
I know, right? But I almost feel like there's a camaraderie. I think like audiences are going to sabotage that, because you definitely have like male audience members that like want to see Barbie fail in favor of Oppenheimer, and like I understand where I don't like condone that. I want them both to do well, but I get that that's a thing. But I do feel like there's a lot of whatever the opposite of animosity is for those movies. Like a lot of
there seems to be like a lot of
the other one.
Yeah, there seems to be like a lot of actor support. Like I just read yesterday, like Cillian Murphy, he was doing an interview I think yesterday where he was like, I love Margot Robbie, I love Ryan Gosling, I'm going to see Barbie. Like that, he was the first person from that movie that has actually said something that I've heard of about Barbie.
Nice,
like publicly, and then like and then Margot Robbie and Greta Gerwig showed that they had tickets for Oppenheimer, and I wrote something for guyatthemovies.com that I've been writing once a week for them, just opinion pieces for them, and I actually wrote that it's important that both of those movies do well. I
read that.
One doesn't need to flop in order for one to win.
To be a bloodbath like competition.
Yeah, it's like room for all of them, and honestly, Barbie is like counter programming, even though I think it is kind of. I don't think it's just a female driven movie. Yes, it's going to be heavily female, but I think it's
counter programming is the best phrase you could use for that movie. I've never heard it described that way, but that is exactly what it is.
It's I mean, I told you before we wrapped up the last episode, we were doing like current box office tracking has it opening in $93 million. That's insane. That's bigger than The Flash. Just as an FYI, that's bigger than Fast 10. That would be bigger than Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. That is just insane. And then Oppenheimer went up a little bit to 43 million for its opening weekend potentially.
Okay.
But then
sorry, what?
Yeah, I mean, it's so the two things are one thing that's hard in the case of Oppenheimer is it's 3 hours long.
Mm-hmm.
It's R rated, and it's like, it's not like action driven. It's very much real life historical. I guess you call it epic at that point. And
that's how it's being marketed, certainly.
Right. So it's going to definitely cater to an older audience. I don't think the full story for that movie is its opening weekend, though. I think it's legs after. Like,
it's also how got long like a month-long IMAX guarantee.
Yeah, I think 3 weeks. I think like 3 weeks. Like 3 weeks. So it gets 2 weeks. 2 weeks exclusively because he shot with IMAX cameras. But then they worked out a deal with Christopher Nolan to actually have 3, which is why Tom Cruise is upset that Mission Impossible only gets 1.
Right.
So it has that advantage. It has premium screens for 3 weeks. The advantage of Barbie is it's shorter. It's technically more fun, probably.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think it appeals to younger people more than Oppenheimer would.
Certainly hard to take that away from it.
Definitely skewing more female than Oppenheimer.
It does feel like a battle of the genders with these movies, doesn't it?
A little bit. But man, I do think a $93 million opening weekend is not all girls. That's not all women.
No, definitely not. No.
That is, I mean, there is definitely the male demographic is also wanting to see it even if they're gonna hide it. It'd be like, oh, I didn't see that today. They are gonna definitely
like, come on, like there's
but be open about it. It's fine. Go see Barbie and shout it from the rooftops.
Yeah, there you go. I'm saying that because of like who's making it and the kind of movie this is. Like, if this had been like, it's hard to think of like a director that I would like not take seriously if they were doing this. But if this was like, the ultimate like tie into a new Barbie product, and it was just trying to be like a stupid like comedy, like kid oriented comedy, like a product of a movie, not like a meta commentary like you'd mentioned, then sure, like I would say I'm gonna avoid that like the plague. But I feel like this movie is going to be very intelligent. You know what I mean? It's gonna have a lot more substance.
It's going to be much deeper than what it is.
Yes.
Well,
what did you
from
call
the early reactions now? What?
You said a word earlier.
As counter programming, like the
counter program. Yes.
Yeah. Well, early reactions so far are very strong. From there was a premiere. Now take this with a grain of salt. If there was a premiere that was it was attended by mostly influencers, so there weren't a lot of critics that went and saw it. Okay. But I still think it's gonna get strong critical reviews. But like it was mostly influencers that were invited to this premiere.
Take them seriously at all.
Yeah. It was like I was like looking online to see if there was like legitimate people that saw it. And I was like, these are all like, I mean, cool, they got to go, but like,
100%.
They weren't like actual critics. But the early reactions were very strong. It says that it has a really good message. It's funny. Has like what I've been seeing is like a biting kind of sense of humor. Ryan Gosling apparently steals the show, like even talking like Oscar buzz, which is crazy. But but I think about it, Ryan Gosling has always been strong at comedy, and he doesn't get a lot of credit for it. He
does not.
Like Crazy Stupid Love is one of my favorite movies, and he's hilarious in that with Steve Carell and Emma Stone. Like they're all really funny in it, and he's got like an offbeat. I think he gets the joke in most of the stuff that he does, and I think he really got the joke. Yeah, he's great in that too. Yeah, and I think he got the joke here too. Okay. Like it seems like he got the joke.
I think so.
So I mean, I do want to hear more reviews from people who aren't just internet influencers.
Agreed.
But it is nice to hear that. I mean, so far so good for them, and
100%.
I'm sure that can only help the opening weekend box office as we approach this opening day.
Yes.
But there you have that was the Barbie news, but you have some Oppenheimer news to go along with. It's so funny because there's like they've been competing this whole time in news and in.
I know, right? First of all, did you see the size and scale of the?
Oh, the IMAX, the real,
real, like 600 pounds, 11. I don't know if it was miles or kilometers long. Like absolutely insane. I'm saying this. I have no idea what the average IMAX reel looks like, how long it is, how much it weighs, but like just seeing an image of it, I was like, that is like fucking massive. But Christopher Nolan announced I think it would be last week by the time this episode is going to drop, but that there's not a singular CGI shot used in this movie, which I mean, I know he's not a guy, it's no secret he prefers, he's not huge on CGI practical effects, exactly, where possible. But that's not to say that he can't use CGI in his movies, and he has many times before to supplement the experience. But I can't even fathom how he makes a movie like this and doesn't use CGI in it. That is like, I commend him more than I ever could.
I mean, I'm trying to, I'm wondering what it'll be like to sit in that theater when we get to the point where they have to like simulate that explosion.
Right.
I feel like you're gonna feel it in the theater.
You're gonna have to. Have you seen the memes of like? There's a meme of like there was a scene in like I don't know which Spider-Man, like 1 or 2, where like in Tobey Maguire's where Aunt May is like sitting somewhere, like the screen explodes.
And it blows. Like,
watching Oppenheimer. Oh man. In a hilarious side note here, I have seen instances of people confusing the lack of CGI with believing that this meant that there was an actual nuclear bomb used for the movie.
For the movie,
which is like
he can do a lot, guys. He can't do that.
No, exactly.
He's not gonna risk the world to make his movie.
Hilarious. So I find that very funny.
But I mean, kudos to him. I love that an older story about him is kind of resurfacing as this movie's opening, because it is a legitimate complaint. But I mean, it's, if you're familiar with his stuff, it keeps popping up on Twitter that directors have called Christopher Nolan in the past to complain about his sound mix, because they're like, hey, dialogue seems really low, and then all of a sudden it's like everything's like really loud.
Bad one for that.
Oh yeah, that was I remember watching it at home.
Complained about it before Tenet, but I remember watching Tenet in theaters, being like, "Oh, this will be good on rewatch with the disc with subs."
Yeah. I just remember because I was watching at home and my brother was here, and I was like, I can't really fucking hear the dialogue, so I would turn it up, and I have surround sound.
Yeah.
So and then all of a sudden there'd just be like this burst of sound. My brother's like, "What the hell are you watching?"
Yeah.
I know. I'm sorry. But yeah. I mean, of all the things to complain about, I mean, I'm sure he's fixed that. Hopefully with this.
Yes.
And people have been asking about the R rating. Apparently, the R rating for this movie is because of language and prolonged nudity involving, I guess, some kind of love scene between.
We do not get in Nolan movies, so this is like completely out of left field. He rarely uses. I mean, since Memento, I don't think he's really dropped many F-bombs in any of his movies.
Right. His last R-rated movie was Insomnia, and that was in 2002. So that was the last time he had an R-rated movie, and that movie wasn't really like a and that movie wasn't really like a hard R. I mean, there wasn't a lot in that was like graphic or anything like that.
Right.
But apparently there's might be a love scene between Cillian Murphy and Florence Pugh's characters. I think that's where that is coming from.
And they have the affair in real life, right? Okay,
yeah.
I guess he's drawing on that. Okay, it makes sense. But interesting to see, because he does not. I can't think of a single scene of nudity in a Nolan film.
Yeah, I mean, I did love all the. Well, what does he do? Did somebody fuck the bomb in it? Is that why it's rated R? That was a. But no, it's language and prolonged nudity, guys. Okay. So
I love that he's making rated R again. Like, that's fantastic.
Yeah, me too. And honestly, I support anyone going to see Barbie in that as a double feature. And that'll just be a long day. I can't go see it as a double feature.
I don't think I'll do it, but I commend people that are 100%. Go see them both.
I have an advanced screening for Oppenheimer. I'm going to take advantage of it because
lucky
a lot of my friends. I mean, I got to take someone that wants to go, and I know a lot of my friends don't want to go see it. They're just
I'll hop on a flight, brother. I'll meet you out there. I would.
I'll see it right now.
Yeah, that's incredible.
All right, so I hope to really enjoy it, and then I feel like Barbie would be a fun one to just see with like a regular audience. I think so.
I think that'd be the best fun. Way to enjoy it for sure.
Yeah,
I'm expecting to laugh my ass off.
Want to give a little shout out so far to Owen real quick, because right now, domestically at least, because remember we were asked in our own 100th episode what will be the highest grossing film of the summer, and
what did he go with?
Domestically he went with Across the Spider-Verse, and domestically it is right now. It just passed Guardians of the Galaxy domestically as the highest grossing films of the summer so far, $358 million gross domestically. Now we still have Barbie coming out, we still have Oppenheimer coming out, and then we still have Mission Impossible. I don't see Mission Impossible clearing over 350 here, but I can see it worldwide getting to $1 billion globally.
Yeah,
but I don't know. But I don't think I don't know if most of it's coming from us. I mean, it will make a lot of money here. I just don't know if it will clear like 350 domestically. That's not to say that's not a hit, guys. If it does like 300, that's still good. So it's
absolutely
So for now, Owen is kind of leading that a little bit. Nice. I can't, because I don't know if Barbie can. That's not going to clear 350 by the end of its run, and neither is Oppenheimer. That's not going to happen either. So maybe I don't know. He might win that one. But globally, I think it'll be Mission Impossible that will.
I think we agreed on that when we chose
that one.
Yeah.
I'm
still thinking of that, but
it'll win the summer.
Right.
I want to wanted to throw that in there. Oh, and I also wanted to really quick while I have it up, because I just saw it pop up. Someone mentioned on Twitter, at least it's Critical Overlord, that they listened to the It Follows deep dive, and it made them rewatch It Follows again.
Nice.
But they also said, because we kind of talked about it briefly in the episode about the whole how horror movies treat sex and women and all that.
Yep.
They were saying that would be a good a deeper conversation that for us to have on the main show sometime too. So thank you. Well, I'll definitely take that into consideration. Like we are really honestly planning a like horror movie takeover for September and October.
Yes.
So I mean, and I imagine that it won't just be talking about specific films. Like I would like to talk about different aspects of the genre as well. So if that is something that is a bigger conversation, then I will totally
let's bookmark it, because I would love to have that chat, and I'm just as excited for you. I know that horror is definitely your thing, but we never really had the chance to. I mean, we talked about individual movies, but even then, I don't think we've ever really singled out a single horror movie yet. Nothing that comes to mind, but we both happen to really, really care for that genre, and I very much looking forward to the spooky season. It's my favorite time of the movie.
It's gonna be good. Dude, we were both about justice for Skinamarink. Sorry, Merc.
That's right. Yeah, sorry, Merc.
who named it as his most disappointing movie or his worst movie of like the year so far?
It hurts.
All right, whatever.
I was
still got love over here.
My buddy, so Cam, I gotta stop just saying my buddy Cam, because like I feel like anybody that listens on a weekly basis, I
think they know him now.
Cam every single week. Cam sent me something because like he's like my, other than like you, we obviously share big stuff, but like we have a group with a couple other buddies like Thomas and Brian, and we share like stuff on a daily basis, just stuff that comes up from the various accounts we follow. And but he sent me just individually, because we watched Skinamarink together. And he sent me something. I think it was just like an account like that just was giving some love to some of the shots and the stills in the movie. And he sent that to me. And I got thinking, like, I think I want to just put a bunch of time in between that watch so I can kind of like replicate that first experience. Cause I really want to rewatch it this year, but I feel like it might take away if I'm like expecting I just kind of erase it from my memory and rewatch it for the first time again.
Do you think if you did like October, it'd be too soon? Sort of like, or would that be like
definitely? Now I could rewatch like Ferris Bueller later this year and like definitely enjoy it, but like Skinamarink is pretty much bare bones. There's not a lot, as anybody that's seen it knows. So I feel like the things that happen in the movie, I would be very much exposed to and like just be too top of mind. So I unfortunately think I need to let a few more years go by, but I'm like already so much looking forward to that rewatch. That movie scared the shit out of me.
I mean, it got to me, and I think I won't even say that we're in the minority. I think it's like kind of evenly split. I think I've seen like some people praise it and love it, and then other people that just were like, I don't know what the fuck you watched, bro, but it wasn't good. So I mean, and that's fair, but I mean. That
not conventionally good. It's good for other reasons. You know what I mean? It's very much experimental. We've been over this conversation, but I agree.
If you're in film school and somebody like screened that as their short film, you'd be like, "This is brilliant."
Yeah, 100%. Like, wow, why didn't I think of this?
Exactly. So I mean, I mean,
good. It's just not trying to be the same thing.
Yeah,
you got to understand.
Teach their own. I respect it, but I liked it. It got under my skin, and that's all that it needed to do. So
absolutely,
I can't wait for spooky season on the pod. It's gonna be fun.
Let's bookmark that conversation, because
I'm already like thinking about it. Like, oh, it's gonna be so cool. September and
it's not that far away, man.
It really isn't. That's true.
Halfway through,
I guess so. Right?
That's
I know the year's going by like that. Before you know it, it'll be your year anniversary on here.
Crazy.
Crazy.
Halfway through. But,
so we got some news, huh? Not a lot of news really, but
hence
some
all the blab,
interesting stuff.
Yeah.
The first few minutes of this was just us killing time because we didn't have a lot of news to cover. But what do you want to lead with?
Well, we did get, maybe just because this could be kind of quick, we do have a couple we got some glimpses of some stuff this week. I think for excitingly, even for me, who's like by no means the superhero aficionado, I'm very excited from what we saw. The first look at Deadpool 3 with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine in the classic skin.
Classic costume.
That looks awesome. Very excited. I love that he's being included in that.
Yeah, it looks good. And you know, it's funny. Back when those first, that first X-Men movie came out, and they actually had them in the black like leather stuff. The big complaint. I mean, the big thing was like, well, I mean, the comic book costumes, they won't look good on film, so we have to like do this, right?
Right.
And I guess like with time, like it's just like, no, it doesn't look bad. It looks fine. They could have gone with the original. I mean, I get why they went with the black look for like the movies in the early 2000s, because it might have looked silly on then, but I think now, I think you got a taste of what the X-Men costumes too could look like when they did First Class, and they kind of did like the yellow and kind of almost original yellow and blue costumes from like the early comic books. So it was like possible to do. Yeah, it was like, it's possible to do it. I love the look though. It actually looks, everyone's been posting like side-by-side images of like the image from like the comic books and that, and everyone's like, finally, a lot of that going on. Looks cool though.
Looks cool.
Full on.
I gotta say, I'm a little bit hesitant or skeptical. I don't know what the right word in this case would be of how they're going to like address the costume he's wearing, because obviously Deadpool is as meta as they come. I feel like he's obviously going to have some line where he's addressing Logan's new look or something. And I hope they don't I hope they just treat it with respect and kind of make it organic. Although I don't know if I should kind of give that credit to Deadpool. Like, I feel like they're gonna, it might be a look of like, oh, hey, let's give the fans what they want. Why don't you throw this on? And then in the closet is like the classic uniform. I just hope they make it like they're slick with it, but who knows?
Well, this looks, and this is kind of speculation, but I think this is where they're going. This looks like they're doing, because we are still in the multiverse phase of Marvel right now, and it looks like Deadpool. It looks like Deadpool 3 is a multiverse story, and I only say this because Jennifer Garner is coming back as Elektra.
Of course,
she played Elektra in 2003's Daredevil, which was when Fox owned that Marvel property, right? So a lot of people thinks that like this is going to be like a multiverse kind of killing off like the Marvel properties, like very meta Deadpool 3 kind of angle going for it, which could be interesting because like that leaves the door open. That leaves the door open to bring back some Fantastic Four people like Jessica Alba. That'd be really funny to have Chris Evans as a Human Torch, even though he's Captain America in the MCU. That leaves room for like some of the original X-Men, like Halle Berry, Famke Jensen, James Marsden, possibly. I don't know how big her role is going to be. I don't know if this is just a cameo or if it's just a larger part. Sean Levy's directing this one. She's worked with Ryan Reynolds actually on the Adam Project. Came on at Netflix like a year or two ago, I think.
I recall.
So she's kind of reuniting with them. Here's what I will say, and I know Mark gave me a little crap for this because he actually likes 2003's Daredevil. She's the one good thing about it that I can like the one positive I can name, because like she this is when Jennifer Garner was on Alias, and she was like in a kick-ass role. Like she was like known for those kind of roles back then. Now she just plays moms a lot now lately. she's kind of fallen into that rut.
Can't name a Jennifer Garner movie in the last like 10-15 years. So
I guarantee you she probably played a mom. But back then though, in 2003, like she was known for kind of like these kind of kick-ass roles, and she's not the definitive Elektra by any means, but she's holds her own in it. And I think she doesn't really have a ton to work with. It's like the character's not fully fleshed out, but she did a lot with what little she was given.
Okay.
And in the reviews that even didn't like the movie, they singled her out as a good thing, which kind of sucks because they were like, oh, well, she was good. Let's give her own movie. And that sucks. Now that means that we didn't need to have her have her own film. It was like, yo, you were good in like a supporting capacity. That was great. But the Elektra is like Catwoman bad. So it's not good. It's not good. It's not good.
That's bad company to be in, dude.
Yeah. But the response to the news though is like really positive though. Like, I mean, a lot of people that don't even love the 2003 Daredevil liked her in it. And again, I don't know if this is just a cameo or a bigger part. There was a bigger discussion about this. I was like, hey, remember when it was cool to like you go see the movie and you were surprised that person was in it? Like, why did they have to like kind of drop all this kind of news?
Man, great point.
And I actually agree with that. It's like we live in a world now where it's like you have to pump that out to get people excited, but maybe you don't. I mean, sometimes we've watched marketing campaigns where they hide everything, and that kind of works in their favor to like be secretive about what they're doing.
Something tells me if it's that would be a great opportunity to hide her involvement for maybe a cameo / minor role, but something tells me if they're this early in it and they're announcing her, maybe she does have a significant role. That's just a
part. I mean, they tried to hide the Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield thing in Spider-Man No Way Home for as long as they could, and I respected that, even though we all knew they were lying. Like when Andrew Garfield was like, "I'm not."
Still went in expecting to see them. Yeah,
right. But like, yeah, I do understand that though. Like, it would have been nice to have been surprised to see her pop up.
I haven't even really considered that. You're totally right. We do not get that treatment anymore, and I like I just said, I definitely blame it on just social media, and like you can't hide anything, and everything is news now because of that medium. And you're right, it is used to get people in seats, but yeah, how cool would that have been to just not expect to see her at all, and then boom, all of a sudden there she is. That would have been cool. I gotta say though, just personally, yeah, I had not had the time to reflect on what I thought the implications for this movie would be with her involvement, but you're totally right. And like the speculation that it's going to be a multiverse movie, I think if there's a way to see that, I think Deadpool is a way to do it, but I'm already, and I'm not alone.
Are you tired? You're tired of the multiverse?
I was tired of it after the second time. And I mean, No Way Home, I think, like, utilized it the best that it's been done so far. But I think it's a tired trope already, and one that Marvel's relying on far too much. But I do think there's a lot of cool things they could do with Deadpool if they, make fun of it in the right way. But that does, I'm a little bit hesitant. But I think this is one I do go to see.
Yeah, someone was saying that, like, on Twitter, that they think multiverse storylines for movies is a bit too confusing for casual moviegoers who don't know, like, a lot of that stuff. So it's like, why do we have multiple, like, Batman, or why do we have multiple, like, this and that? Multiple, like, Spider-Man, and, like, it's just confusing for someone that doesn't know what it is. And I kind of agree with that. I mean, I'm not saying that we're saying the audience isn't smart enough to get it, but like, if you aren't aware of those kind of like those, if you're not aware of those comic book storylines, you're gonna be like, why am I? Oh wait, like, especially with DC, like, we know there's gonna be like different. There's gonna be Matt Reeves's Batman universe, and then there's gonna be the stuff that they're doing for the DCU, which is like separate.
It is confusing.
It's confusing to the casual moviegoer. So that's the risk you run with the multiverse storylines, I think.
Certainly.
But that's just me. And
it just opens up a lot of plot holes, and it's hard to wrap up a story like that, and you kind of run into the same tropes. But it is a cool opportunity to bring people in that wouldn't otherwise necessarily work in the story. So I can commend it for that. But I mean, we have seen it a lot since, in the last 3-4 years. But anyway, we did get 2 awesome trailers. Depending on what you think, we did get a couple significant trailers this week.
Like, let me dial it back.
Yeah, I don't want to get too ahead of myself here. That's right. But we did get a first look at the Nun II, which, I mean, to be honest, I'm sure I saw news when this movie started filming, but like, did not expect that we'd see footage of this movie. I kind of forgot it was even in development. But what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah. I mean, it looks pretty decent. I mean, like, I don't think the first one is like the best horror movie ever. I mean, but it was entertaining in the moment.
I enjoyed it. Yeah.
And there's some stuff in the trailer that I thought was creepy. There's like a scene towards the end of the trailer where it looks like she's like backing up against like it looks like a wall of like, I don't know if it's like magazines or just clippings, and you can kind of almost see the outline of and then like it comes out and like grabs her. Like, I thought that was a pretty cool way to end the trailer. It kind of gave off like typical of this type of horror film, like a typical horror movie trailer vibe, but like, I don't know how else to really sell it. Apparently there's an audience for this, right? I mean, like I told you before, like I was surprised that first movie opened to 50 million plus when the first one came out, and it came out in September, which, like, that in September is like the new, like, that used to be like a dumpy month like January, but now it's like that opened during that time. The 2 It movies opened in September.
Yes, September's a fantastic month for horror. Release it in fall.
Yeah, so it works. I guess I didn't realize. I guess we had so many examples of like not just the Conjuring movies, but all the Conjuring universe movies have done well. Like from Annabelle to like. So I guess I shouldn't have been surprised that like The Nun broke out despite not great reviews, but it was still managed to. And I think it made over $300-something million worldwide. So that's, I mean, this is why you're getting a second one.
This is destined to happen. I'm sure we'll get a trilogy. That being said, like I also thought the trailer was, I mean, Yeah, it's very conventional. You see the scares, I think, coming from a mile away, but like there's still, I think the character of like the nun, like the demon Valak, is like scary enough and like present enough in like the Conjuring universe that it's like there's still some legs with that character. But I do think we've seen a lot of it now. Like I'm wondering like how much more we're gonna get after this one, or if they decide to wrap it up. But I'm with you. Like I enjoyed the first one. It's definitely way too relying on jump scares, and it's by no means a fantastic horror movie, but I think for like where it fits in the Conjuring verse, I'm happy with it. And I like the nun character's scary as hell. But after this, I'm assuming it was because of this trailer for the second one. I was like on TikTok the other day and like just saw like a couple minute clip of the scene of Valak in the Warren's house in the Conjuring 2 when the daughter like points in the hallway. Oh my god, it's like shivers down my spine. It is so freaky. So then it got me kind of excited. Okay, this is a scary character. Like I think I'm on board for this one, but I don't know. We'll have to see. I missed the last few Conjuring movies in theaters, but I might go back for this one.
Yeah, I mean, I almost see any horror film, even if it gets bad reviews. So I support it no matter what. It's a genre that I think needs support, and
definitely
I feel like no matter what, people come out for them because like we hope for the best.
Yes,
at the end of the day, and there's an audience for this, man. I mean, it's clearly I never saw the Conjuring universe coming. I mean, I thought we were just gonna get those Conjuring movies, and they would make their money, and then
Annabelle was way too popular of a side character to not get her own, and
that's they're taking all these it's and that's like so it's happening with Insidious, like Mandy Moore and I think oh god, I forget the other guy's name, but it's in kind of an Insidious inspired story. It's not going to be based on the main franchise, but it's basically something like an Insidious story where it's like similar in its approach. So that's even building its own universe too, which conveniently, they all have all of them have the same minds behind them.
Yeah, that's right.
Some
James
capacity.
Wan, Lee
So I love seeing horror movies when they're successful, even not great ones, because like it's just like people have an appetite for them, and even if critics are like, I didn't really think that was scary, a lot of times the general audience is like, it was fine for me. There are certain horror movies I think are made to be good, and there are certain horror movies I made that are just to be like a good time and
you're
scary in the moment. Like you're like, oh, like whatever, it was entertaining, and it's not meant to stimulate the mind. So
that's right. I did want to end with praising the Nun II for it's like, I don't know if genius is the right word, but I thought it had a fantastic tie-in to the original Conjuring that I did not see coming. And I get it's a little bit edited differently to kind of work in the context of the first Nun, but when they tie in that French character, I think he's kind of featured in a throwaway anecdote from Patrick Wilson's character in the first movie. Oh, I thought that was so genius. I love that. That made that movie for me. I was like, that was awesome. I'm glad they included that.
Yeah.
But hopefully they can do it a little bit. And we have Taysa Farmiga reprising her role too. Like I'm glad to see her in there.
Sister Irene.
Yeah, that's right.
And Michael Chavez, who directed it, says that by the end of the Nun, we will see the Nun II. We will see some connective tissues to the greater Conjuring universe. So
fantastic.
There will be so they're not just gonna they will it plants the seeds for stuff moving forward, I guess. So there's always that.
He also directed that. This is the only Conjuring verse movie I think I haven't seen was The Curse of La Llorona. Is he the director from that as well?
Yeah, he did The Curse of La Llorona and The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. He did that last one too. Yeah.
Forgot he had done that one as well.
So they clearly like him.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. So that comes out on September 8th, which will be here before you know it, guys.
Certainly.
Ugh, crazy.
With that one out of the way, we got another fantastic, I'd say the fantastic trailer. I love this. Anyway, this came out today as of recording, but you got a chance to see Ridley Scott.
Jackson just popped out of his seat, right?
Yeah, I'm so excited for this movie. For those that remember when we were talking about our most anticipated movies of the year, had this one on my list. Ridley Scott's Napoleon. We got our first look at with the trailer released on Monday the 10th, and my God, does it look even better than I could have imagined.
Yeah,
What
it
do you
looks really
think?
good.
Yeah.
I think it looks really. What I was most impressed by, because we always talk about Ridley Scott and his age and him still cranking out movies. Not just that he's cranking out movies, but like just based on the trailer, it's the scope that
Yeah.
he's doing them in a very
Agreed.
quick turnaround time. They're not like languishing in like development hell or something. Like he gets these done like fairly quickly,
It's a great
and
point.
this looks like it has a pretty big massive scope to it. I did see some people online that were concerned about the lack of French accents in the trailer.
Yeah, I remember, and especially this is like the inner historian in me because this is what I studied at school. Like, and I like am just particularly excited for this movie because of like having learned about Napoleon in university. Like, he's a fascinating character, and one I feel like I can't believe we haven't had like a definitive portrayal of him yet. At least not that I can think of. It did kind of
Yeah,
bother me, and this is a critique I've lent to many movies, especially historical epics, when they kind
yeah,
of don't go for it, but it's also we've seen this work in other mediums that, like, for instance, like Chernobyl comes to mind, like where all the actors, it's a Russian story, yet
yeah,
all the actors are speaking in their native accents, and that movie, I
yeah.
think it's better off because of that. So I think maybe the juice wasn't worth the squeeze in this
Probably.
for this example. Anyway, yeah, no, I get what people are saying, but oh well. I,
Now, do,
I,
do you think it's a case of people being nitpicky, or is that like a legitimate like criticism?
hmm. You know what? Like, I guess I'll stick to my principles here. Like, I do, for the most part, although I just admitted there's examples where it works. I do think if you're going to tell a story like this, like, you should, honor the time and the place from and the nation from which it came from. Like, I would ideally
Yeah,
like to have seen this done with a French cast in the French language. Like, that's, I think, what would best serve the story. But also, it's going to make it more accessible. A lot of people wouldn't go watch this if it was a French film. And it's a story that I think is going to be like worth being told, and it's going to be a massive movie and good for
right.
the industry. So you know what, I guess I'll play devil's advocate here, but
Yeah, that's
kind of a
fair.
complicated
Yeah, I
answer.
mean,
But yeah,
that was the only criticism I saw. Like for the most part online, it seems like everyone was impressed by the trailer,
mm,
and already they started mentioning like it looks like based on that trailer that it could be an Oscar contender. It's definitely coming out around a time where it could
yeah,
be November 22nd. Also getting a theatrical release, but this is also a Apple TV Plus film, and I think it's
kudos
in
to
the
them.
same vein of Killers of a Flower Moon. It's great that you're announcing the theatrical release date and not announcing when it's going to drop on your streaming platform, so people just don't wait for it to watch it at home.
I commend
I
them
think
so
that's
much for doing that. Like, I never
yeah,
would have thought I'd be saying
very,
that, but
very, very smart. I yeah, I think everyone should follow that lead if they're going to have these kind of like hybrid sort of releases a little bit. Um, because you don't want to bite yourself in the foot by like killing your box office potentially by letting that date drop,
that's
because
right.
a lot of people will wait and watch it at home.
Yeah,
Um, Joaquin Phoenix looks like he's going to be amazing in it. I mean he's never not amazing, so I
that's
mean there's
right.
no surprise,
That's
no
great. He's
surprise
got this
there.
and Bo Was Afraid out in the same year, both massive projects of which he's the lead.
Yeah,
Like, great year for him, and like he's still hot off an Oscar win. I mean, it's been 4 years now since Joker, but
it's like
he hasn't been
crazy.
in.
It's been that long.
Yeah, I know. He
Yeah, yeah,
also
it's
hasn't been in
crazy.
much. He's been probably filming these last couple of movies since then, but
Yeah,
the guy's on a hot streak right now. Even though it is crazy to think it's in 4 years.
definitely. His filmography is an impressive one too. Like he would be a good revisit or some of the stuff that he like stands out in.
Yes,
Like
one
I've
of the
been
more
like I
immaculate.
haven't watched her in a long time, and I remember loving that movie, and I haven't watched it in so long. And he was really great in that. Of course, we talked about it was funny we mentioned Gladiator on the last episode that we
Mm.
did, and he's amazing in that movie
A lot of
too.
comparison
Uh,
shots to the shots from this trailer and him and as
yeah,
Commodus
yeah,
and Gladiator.
yeah,
It's pretty cool to see.
yeah. I mean, fantastic actor. It looks like he's gonna be fantastic in this. You'll be there on opening night.
I'm sure
I
I will
assume.
be.
I assume.
Um,
And again, kudos to Ridley Scott, man. I mean,
guy's
still
not
cranking them
slowing
out
down.
with
Yeah,
it.
he did
No,
2021. He did the
was the
The
last
Last
duel,
Duel
right?
and
And
House of
Hasaguchi.
Gucci, which are
Yeah,
both and like I don't think either movie suffered because of his attention to both movies. They were both epics.
right.
Like, definitely not received like as good as they could have been. I think they're better than the scores and the attention they got at the box office. But then he went right from those to
Yeah,
this. Like, the guy is like 91 or 90. and is not slowing down.
Somewhere in there.
Somewhere up
I
there.
mean, the last duel flat out flopped. It shouldn't have.
That's right. It did flop.
I thought it was a good. I thought it was a good movie. House of Gucci made some money.
Yep.
But I think and I think that was a lot of that had to do with it being a sensational true life story. You had Lady Gaga in the lead, and she's a big international star in general. It also was a good movie. I really, other than Jared Leto, I liked everything about House of Gucci.
Right. I'd be interested to see entertaining. How my impression of Jared Leto.
Watching it on
rewatch. I liked him in it, but I'm also like, I understand why people don't. It was very out there and wacky, but I feel like he just cracked me up in that movie. But
he sounded like Super Mario. You sounded like a Super Mario brother. That's all I think when I was watching it. I was like, oh,
he's the butt of the joke.
Like, what movie for sure. What movie are you in? You're in a totally different movie than everyone else.
That's right.
But yeah, I mean, I that was a good year though for him. Even though the last duel didn't make money, I thought that was a really solid year for Ridley Scott.
I think time would be kinder to it.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll see. I mean, this gets good reviews. This is the kind of movie that the Academy really likes. So if the reviews are there for Napoleon, I can see it. I think Joaquin Phoenix has a better chance Oscar-wise with this than Beau is Afraid, only because
I don't think there's a chance for Beau is Afraid.
Yeah, only because of the polarizing response to Beau is Afraid.
He's great in it, don't get me wrong, but
I actually finally have it at home, and I really need to watch it. I haven't watched it yet, and I really need to. I know it's a long one, so I really need to put the time in. But you'll be the first person I message after I watch
it. Awesome. Yes, I'm glad for that. Oh man, what a ride! I can't wait to hear. I honestly won't be surprised if you lean one way or another because it's just that kind of movie. But it is very. You can at least respect the risks that both the studio and Ari Aster took for that movie, and regardless of what you think of the movie, Joaquin is undeniably a tour de force in that movie with his performance. Definitely. Very excited for you to see that again.
Yeah.
Or to see that for the first time.
I definitely will be checking it out. I guess it's a good time to update you guys on the Screen Actors Guild strike.
Yes.
I think the last episode we said they extended talks up until this coming Wednesday, which should be, I guess, 12th. There has been no budging so far in said talks. So by the time you hear this episode, there will either be another extension or we'll be in the middle of a full-on Screen Actors Guild strike. There isn't really much to add other than that. And then, like, just to give you kind of an overview of what that means for actors, if there is a strike, actors will not be able to film any movie and TV productions. They will not be able to take part in any press junkets or film premieres, and they won't be able to promote anything at San Diego Comic-Con and will be advised not to attend at all. That's like the bare bones of, but really big stuff right now that they won't be able to do if they do strike. It's not looking good. I haven't heard any talks of them extending it or even last minute coming to the table with a new deal. But that's just a quick update on that since we've been talking about it. That's where we're at.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's dismal projections for the future. All we can really pray for is we don't get hit with that double whammy of the writers and actors strike. But it's not looking good, like you mentioned, and it might not seem like a big deal right now, but months down the line, next year, we'll definitely be seeing the impact of these
You'll
strikes.
Definitely feel it. We're gonna get through a whole summer, fall, late December, like through the end of the year with film releases. That'll be fine. But once you're talking about stuff that should have started filming now, or maybe should start filming in early 20, and maybe there needs to be like script rewrites or any of that kind of stuff. That's not happening right now. It's immediately going to affect TV. I mean, the fall TV season is not going to start when it's supposed to start,
right?
And that's due mostly to the writer's strike. But if there's also a Screen Actors Guild strike, then that's never going to happen. Hey, but you know what? Start watching soap operas because they can still do their thing. So maybe so like there's gonna be a sweet soap opera revival if you guys want to watch something.
I wonder if like live sports will like see an increase in numbers. Like for instance, like for me, like if I'll have some shows I'll be looking forward to that won't be screening, and like we'll open up some time to maybe watch some hockey games or something. I'm wondering if we'll see an increase or where people will be putting their free.
You know what happened last time though in 2008 because reality TV came in big.
Yeah,
That's when we got Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and that's also when we got The Apprentice, and those are big reality shows, of course, for better or worse. And the Kardashians are still reality TVing it up on Hulu. So that is the result of the writer's strike, because the networks are like, oh, hey, we got to put something on. And
isn't that when Jersey Shore started as well? Was like around that time?
I think around that time too, or maybe a little after. But like, it's
God bless that show, because I know it's trash.
That was highly entertaining.
Yes,
I
it
had
was.
no shame in enjoying that.
And I went through that again during the pandemic, and I'm grateful for that, because it was good entertainment while I was cooped up. But this is a great segue into some secret news. By secret, I mean we didn't discuss it beforehand, and I don't even know if you've heard about this yet, but I wanted to pitch it at you. Honestly, you might just have some insight onto this, because I only read a headline. I don't even really know what's going on. I can assume it's related to the strike, but I just saw it today, meaning Monday, as of filming, that The Boys season 4 is now suspended indefinitely, whatever that means. Have you seen this?
Oh, I did not see that, and that is sad.
Man. Yes, it fucking sucks. I love that show. Man. I'm so sad. I don't know why. I don't know for how long. I don't know if it's because I would have thought that show was done filming by now.
I would have thought so too.
So this is the first you're hearing of this, then.
That is the first I'm hearing of it.
Sorry to burst your bubble.
That is unfortunate.
What was the last you heard about? Yeah, what was the last?
That would have to be the strike thing.
You think so? Eh?
I don't even know where. They were, I mean, I thought they might have been done or close to done. God, that last season was so good too.
Man, every season every season has gone up for me. I've really enjoyed that show since the beginning.
Again, when season 3 started, because I had to interview like 4 of the people from the show.
Oh,
and
what?
And
who did you interview?
It was Chase Crawford, and then was it Carl Urban? Is that his name?
Him. Butcher.
And then the creator of the show. And then I'm forgetting the girl's name, but I interviewed her with Chase Crawford. It's not the blonde. Not the main, no, I wish it was. It wasn't her. She was like, why am I blanking on her name? She was exploding people and shit.
Explode.
Oh God, I am like, I see her face, and I'm kind of totally blanking.
Yes. The girl who plays Victoria Newman.
There we go.
I can't remember her name. Well, I think she's an Iranian or like.
Yes. So, she is. She's. They were all very fun and very pleasant. They were awesome.
No doubt. That is super. Wait, is Chase Crawford the Deep?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's awesome. Wow,
grossest character.
Yeah, no, I love I know that he starts on that show very much like being despicable, but I feel like the show does a good job at making him like
kind of human. Yeah, a little bit.
I'd hesitate to say he's redeemed himself since then, but he's definitely not as despicable as he was in the beginning, and he's now the butt of all the jokes. But man, it cracks me up. That is super cool. You interviewed Carl Urban. I did not know that either, man. You're always pulling up.
Yeah, he was pretty cool.
These stars that you've interviewed. Like, what the fuck?
I wanted to clarify because I did pull it up.
Yep.
It says The Boys season. It's in post production, but it says it's still being delayed by the writer's strike.
What?
It says the premiere of The Boys season 4 has been delayed indefinitely due to the Writers Guild Association strike. That the WGA protests is halting productions across film and TV industry as the writers union negotiates for better pay and all that stuff. They said this delay is unusual because The Boys season 4 wrapped some time ago.
Okay.
Is currently in post production. As creator Eric Kripke explained on Twitter, a good bit of writing goes on in post. That's why, even though cameras have long since stopped rolling, not only are actors brought in to dub lines in ADR, he explained, but there is also essentially rewriting that goes on in editing based on how lines are cut together. That level of post-production reworking might not be familiar to some, but Kripke says there's enough of it going on in The Boys season 4 to mean production would have to cross a picket line and move forward. And he said that's not going to happen because they support what the writers are writing for.
That's it. End the strike. I can't tolerate the strike all along.
Give them their money.
I also want to say I remembered his name, the show creator, before you mentioned it. I'm just putting it out there. Eric Kripke's a genius behind that show, and he deserves all the credit because that show is fucking awesome.
behind Supernatural.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, thank you. Thanks to that, we got Jensen Ackles in last season, he was awesome.
Yeah, I don't like that at all because
Nope. Nor do I.
that is one of my favorite shows currently on TV across any platform. It's so well done. I just love how it pokes fun at just the whole superhero genre in general.
And
it does it. It's so smart. It's so smart.
Yes. And like, you know how many times I've like pitched this show to people, and as soon as you get the word, like, for at least people that are like over superheroes or don't buy into it in the first place, once you say it's a superhero, like, they kind of tune out. You got to be like, no, it is the antithesis of superhero.
Yeah, it's the anti.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it picks on them in the best way, and while also still being a good superhero story. It just
and also some really good, despite the fact that it's completely irreverent and like kind of dark and occasionally silly. There are some really deep, really good character arcs on it too. Like it's like not just like a fun, like entertaining show. There's like these characters are multifaceted and layered. And like that's what amazes me the most about the writing for it is that there's so much more going on than what you think you're getting. And that's why I think it's so well done.
That's a great way of putting it. I also think Anthony Starr's performances as Homelander will go down as one of the best villains of like any TV show ever. I strongly support that now. 3 seasons into the show, he's
a force great
to be reckoned with. Yeah.
And that, that show has actually crossed over and gotten like Emmy attention. Like that, I mean, that's how good like the show is. It's not just like
got an animated superhero.
Yeah. They're doing like another spinoff, a live action one with like I guess a younger generation of people on it. Like, so that should be fun if it's in the same vein as The Boys.
Yes. Oh, I'm sure it will be.
But yeah, you were right. I am devastated by that news. So you warned me.
That sucks. I was very sad to see that. This is another thing that Cam had sent today. He saw it before me, and I was like, no, I was at work. I had my phone propped up, and I, have that chat, like the notifications come through, and I saw that. I was like, no.
Well, thanks, Cam, for the bad news.
Yeah, sorry for the digital turn. Looking here,
that's all good.
That was the last thing I had slated.
I think that's it up until box office. Yeah, box office. Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm happy to be wrong about this one.
Right.
We got Insidious wrong.
Me more so.
What did I say? Did I say
you
like
said 25? I went 20.
And I thought 25 was a good middle ground. But dude, once the Thursday preview number came out, it was like 5.2 million on Thursday night. I was like, oh, it's either going to be really front loaded and everyone rushed out, or it's going to extend. And it did. It ended up making $15 million on its opening day, and then was able to carry that to it was 32.7. It was 32.7 million. The actuals just came out, actually bumped up a little bit to $33 million this weekend. It is the second biggest opening of the Insidious franchise behind Chapter 2, which did $40.2 million. This movie cost $16 million to make. So everyone, make more horror movies because they're cheap. And stop making rarely expensive movies for $300 million, because Homie in second place, even though the drop wasn't as bad as they thought it would be for Indiana Jones, it still dropped, 56% to $27.4 million, and that's not great for a $300 million movie. It's gonna lose Disney some money. But also of note, Insidious opened to 31.4 million overseas. This is the biggest overseas opening for a horror film since 2019. And and that's crazy to me. Like it had a bigger foreign opening than Evil Dead, Scream 6, the last Halloween movie, Halloween Ends. These are arguably titles that are bigger.
Wow. That's weird to think about.
But are you surprised by how much life is in it? I mean, this is the last one, apparently.
Yeah, heard that song and dance before.
This is the final one.
Even a whole other weekend to go through.
I heard the post credit. There's a post credit scene that hints at a potential sequel.
I was saying this last week, like how many more of these we need. I'm glad it's doing good for the franchise. Don't get me wrong, but like I can see this just being run into the ground, like many horror franchises are. I'll save my comments for later development. If I were to guess what the last biggest opening for, I don't know if you have it in front of you, but like Invisible Man comes to mind.
That would be it. Yeah,
that was it. Oh, nice, awesome. That movie was,
yeah.
And Lee Winnell behind that as well.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah,
that guy is
that was good.
horror.
Yeah.
He's doing it right.
Really
he's
good.
leading it.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, that movie was great.
I'm pleasantly surprised by how well it did. I mean, I didn't expect a $33 million opening weekend at all.
Clearly, I didn't either. That almost doubles my prediction.
Yeah, but kudos to, again, oh God, and I saw more of these like articles popping up. They're like, oh, horror wins again. Like it's a surprise. I don't know how many examples of horror movies you need that open big and cost like nothing to make and turn a profit. I don't know how many more examples you need, but here's another one for you.
Yeah, this is huge for Patrick Wilson too in his directorial debut. So
directorial debut.
Great job.
I mean, and he was making the rounds promoting this like crazy on, because there's no late night TV right now because of the strike, but he was all over daytime TV on different talk shows and stuff, really promoting this thing.
Awesome.
And it seemed like it was a real labor of love because I mean, it brought that whole original Lambert family back to do this one. It's a direct follow-up to chapter 2, so it's like everyone that was in those first 2 movies is here back again.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was reading an article about the Insidious series. It might have been from The Guardian or somewhere, and I honestly had not realized. I knew one of the last 2 Insidious movies was a prequel. I didn't realize this is the follow-up to the second one, that the last 2 were both prequels. So that's
prequels, yeah.
I was like, okay, shit. I also think had he not been offered the director's chair, that he was like considering passing on the movie too, right?
Yeah, I think he was. I think he felt there was a good opportunity for him to direct, and then also if there was more story to tell, he can maybe help flesh it out. Because he said he thought he was honestly done after the second one because they did those other 2, even though they were prequels. Mm-hmm. He thought he was finished, and no, guess not.
I guess there's still legs.
Yeah, there's still legs, and
one of these days I'll binge this series again and probably have fun doing it. But I really did not like the second one. So,
well, here's what I was frustrated with because I was watching everyone on Twitter saying how they hate the franchise, and I was like, fine, you can say that. You can say that about maybe the second, third, fourth. That first movie is so good, and I mean I know you don't feel as strongly about it as I
like it. I feel like my comments made me think or came across that I didn't. I do acknowledge I didn't like it as much on the last time I watched it, but still a great 2010s horror. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
you're right. It's a good one.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not fair. It's definitely not. I mean, the second one, and it's such a disappointment because the first one's so good, and also the second one comes out the same year as The Conjuring. So I was like, oh well, that's like like I said, your attention was split, James, on like doing something else.
Yes.
But yeah, that first movie is solid. And dude, I mean, you know what? I mean, we're talking about 2010 horror movies. When we were doing the It Follows deep dive, one of the things that kept coming up in like a lot of my research for It Follows is that a lot of critics consider It Follows to be the best horror movie, or one of the best, or if not the best horror movie of the 2010s. And I was like trying to think of what else is in there.
2010s? Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, what else is in there? And I had to really go back and look and like, all right, well, let's see what it stands up against. I haven't like really thought about it yet because I was like, that's a really big thing to think about.
Certainly, but now that you mention it, I kind of want to go through it. Like, I don't want to just let that talking point go. Like, The Conjuring to me, like, instantly comes up as number 1, unless I'm sure it could be beat with further analysis. But like, even Sinister from that same year, I hold those movies in very similar.
Sinister also has one of the best jump scares ever. So good.
There are several good ones.
Yeah. I mean,
Hereditary. Come on.
Yeah. I think critics are looking at it more like intelligent and well written, as opposed to like scary. I'm assuming that's how they're looking at it.
I suppose you're okay. Like, there's a lot of nuance to it. It's not it doesn't frighten me, but it is a good, cleverly written horror movie. You're certainly right.
Yeah. Upon rewatch though, I mean, it's a little unsettling. There's like when we were talking about it, I was like, there's something about it where you're kind of on edge the entire time, like wondering like when is something going to happen. Like it feels like you're not safe watching it because there's like something is coming from somewhere, and that's just the way that director created atmosphere and tension. But yeah, I was like reading that, and I was like, yeah, I mean, because you brought up some good ones that could easily be better. But I would have to really like.
I guess it really depends. Like again, horror. There are so many different things that you could weigh as what makes a good horror movie and what kind of horror movie it's trying to be. So it's really hard to like rate something under the horror umbrella because it really is so diverse. So
yeah,
if you maybe throw some different like qualities that to rank of the horror genre, maybe it could be the top of some lists. But like if you're looking at it just that, like I don't think it comes in as number one for me. Certainly in 2014, I would say.
Yeah. All right. I mean, all right, Jackson, consult your friends and see what they said.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity to ask the listeners.
Yeah, I'm thinking about throwing that up on for one of the promo tools for the deep dive episode to see if they agree with that, and if not, like what is their favorite or what they think is the best one. The last thing I wanted to mention about box office before we predict Mission Impossible. Joyride unfortunately did not connect with audiences, even though there was a lot of pre-release. Kind of they premiered it at South by Southwest. It had a lot of good early notices too, and 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. From people 1%, yeah, from people that I saw that early screenings of it from critics that I know that saw it, they loved it, thought it was funny. This is just another example that sometimes comedy does just not hit theatrically, and that's pretty disappointing because I know there's an extra layer to this too because it's a predominantly Asian cast, and I think that has a lot of weight to like hey, show up for these movies, and no one really did, and it's unfortunate because it opened in 6th place with $5.8 million. It's going to be it'll be on video on demand before you know it to watch at home, which I think that's the case with a lot of these comedies is they're not considered events anymore. I think they're just considered something you can wait and watch at home. And there's no real rush to go see them in theaters. No Hard Feelings is kind of bucking that trend. It's made about $40.5 million.
Okay, wow.
So far. And
highest grossing R-rated comedy of what?
I think they said, did they say decade or something? It was something weird, crazy number. Yeah. Worldwide too, with the worldwide figure in it too. Yeah. Because so far, No Hard Feelings has grossed $67.6 million worldwide.
Good for it.
So good for it. So they're. I mean, and that's a credit to, I guess her name above the title. It was enough for her. She put butts in the seats, and the concept probably did it a bit too. But I'm sure. Sorry for Joyride though, because I know that they were actually out in full force promoting that movie a lot too, trying to get the word out, and it just didn't click. So that's unfortunate.
I remember seeing the trailers for it in theaters, and for the most part, I do think there's a lot to laugh at in that movie. But it did lose me at, and I haven't seen the movie, but they hint at a segment where like the main cast are going through and they got to pretend to be K-pop stars, and it looks like there might be a singing part, and like that for me was too much. I was like, Jesus Christ!
You just like sit down in your seat, like
that would be if for those who have seen A Clockwork Orange, where they're making Alex and they prop his eyelids open and he's watching the screen and torturing him, like that would be what you'd have to make me watch. Like I could not sit through that, but for the most part, it's disappointing though that audiences didn't show up for it, but they had a lot of selection over the weekend, and you can't go see everything. So,
yeah, I mean, you had Insidious, you had the second weekend of Indiana Jones. There's this faith-based movie called Sound of Freedom. They come out of nowhere and make a lot of money.
Right? I'm hearing a lot of buzz about that.
It opened to $19.6 million, and it has grossed $41.6 million since opening midweek last week. That's crazy, but those movies always come in and just kill it. And they come in, make their money, and leave, much like the Jurassic Park movies. That's how my friends talked about Jurassic World. I love that franchise. They just come in, make their money, and go. But you're right. There's a lot out there. I think that has a lot to do with it too.
I'm sure.
And then you also have two R-rated comedies out.
Yeah,
around the same time.
Those are also hard to make money as it is, and then you have two against each other.
Also, two female-driven R-rated comedies. So I think they kind of
fighting
worked against each other here
at the throat. Speaking of midweek release, I also still find it so odd that this movie is releasing on a Wednesday, but Dead Reckoning.
I wonder if it's to take advantage of the whole like IMAX thing longer than just opening Friday. That could be it.
So we'll just have 4 day. Wait, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We'll just have a 5 day.
box up.
Box
So
office
we
opening
so we
weekend?
can either do this as the 3-day or the 5-day.
I think we should do like we would if it was a long weekend. I guess it's fair
Yeah.
to do both. So would you do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday as the 3-day?
So the 3-day would be the 3-day would be considered the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then the 5-day would start Wednesday and then go through the week.
Okay, fair. Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
Let me see if I can pull up tracking for Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. The last I saw, it was at 100 million for its opening weekend. Let's see if that is still the case, which seems, I guess that's not low. I mean, I thought it'd be like a little bit bigger, but
I really wasn't sure what to expect. I don't know how the last one's opened. I wasn't paying attention to this sort of thing.
I'll throw in some numbers for you.
Okay, fantastic.
So right now, it's kind of come down a little bit. Deadline says that it's looking at maybe a 90 to 100 million opening weekend domestic. And they said it's expected to place a franchise global 5-day record of like global, here and overseas of $250 million in its opening weekend.
I hope it does.
That would be great. I'm gonna kind of pull up. Should we just pull up the last two?
Yeah, there's too many to go through them all.
Yeah. And I don't think actually the box office for like the rest of like the first 3 or 4 probably even matters. So we'll go with Fallout. So Mission Impossible Fallout open. Oh, that's crazy. Open to $61.2 million. Seems kind of low in retrospect, right?
100%.
It ended up making 220.1 million domestic and 791.6 million worldwide on a $178 million budget.
Whoa, man, those movies have a worldwide appeal.
Yeah, it's Tom Cruise.
2/3 of the budget came from overseas. That's crazy.
Yeah, and Rogue Nation had a $55.5 million opening weekend. It made $195 million domestic and a worldwide total of $682.7 million worldwide on a budget of $150 million. $487.6 million of that was international gross for Rogue Nation.
Man.
By the way. So I guess the difference here, I feel like between Rogue Nation, Fallout, the franchise has only gotten bigger. Yes. So that $61 million opening for Fallout seems low in retrospect, and I just think that not only has the franchise gotten bigger, but Tom Cruise, even with Top Gun Maverick, as a person, as a presence, has gotten bigger.
I'm factoring Maverick's success into box office tracking for Dead Reckoning 100%. Right. He's still very much top of mind for action film goers and even just people that maybe haven't revisited the series in a while that are thinking about catching this one in theaters that maybe enjoyed Maverick. Like, I'm sure that will impact numbers.
Yeah.
That being said,
you want to go first, or you want to go? Or you want me to
go? I think it'll hit the target. I just want to. I'm optimistic with this one. I'm not sure how much optimistic over it I think it's going to go. But like when you think about so
do you think the high end of the target or the low end of the target?
High end. I'm going to go over 100 million. I just don't know. I think I want to settle at 105. But
you bastard!
Is that what you're thinking?
I was gonna pick 105 too. Yeah,
you can pick 105. We don't ever agree or like aim for the same number. I won't.
I'm going 105. Yeah.
Okay, I like that. We don't always. I can't remember the last time that happened, but I'm optimistic. But then like I'm also thinking that's like almost not quite, but almost double what the last one opened to, which you're right, it is low. I don't know if that means anything, but that seems like quite the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, the argument that Deadline brings up, they compare it to like the 007 movies, is that it's still an older skewing franchise compared to most. Like, you know how like the Fast and Furious skews a little young? They don't think the Mission Impossible franchise does as much as those do.
Interesting.
But it feels like I know a lot of younger people that like it, but I could see it being more of an older, like attractive more to an older audience than most of these action movies. But yeah, I think 105 is a good number to land on. And honestly, I say that, and if it goes beyond that, I wouldn't be surprised either. If it kind of pops up a little above it,
I'd be happy. I wouldn't be surprised. I want it to be higher, but I'm trying to be as accurate as possible, and that number popped into mind. So
those Thursday preview. Oh, actually Wednesday preview. those Wednesday numbers will be interesting to see. And then
Yes.
like by the time we get to Friday, I'm like, we'll have a bigger picture of like where it's going.
Send those my way when Wednesday numbers come out.
Yeah, but I will. So we're both on 105.
Yeah,
perfect. There we go.
Fantastic.
Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. And then guys, I can't wait because after next week we'll be predicting. We're gonna do both of them next week. Usually we pick one movie. We'll do predictions for Barbie and Oppenheimer next week.
Oh, we're gonna have to.
Yeah. We can't. If we pick one, we're just giving into the whole like one over the other war mentality. Like, no, we're gonna predict both of those next week for you guys. But yeah, hope to see Mission Impossible do some good business, bring in some money. And excited.
Certainly.
Should be good.
It's hopefully going to be a healthy box office going forward for the rest of the summer after some duds. So I'm really hoping people go out. It's going to be interesting to see how that 5-day weekend affects things. I just don't remember. I can't think of any example of that. I'm sure it has happened. I just don't know.
It's usually kind of with a holiday. It's usually with a holiday that happens. But like,
I bet you're right with the IMAX thing. I bet you they're just trying to rake in like extra time
as much as they can.
Yeah. But yeah, all right. Shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for listening to Gaius and I chat about our favorite thing. This has been episode 108. I had to double check which number because we just filmed 107, but this has been episode 108 of Back to the Blockbuster. We are far past episode 100 now, and guys, still so very grateful for you guys for tuning in, listening to us. Each week, we'll have some different sort of things to throw at you on social media this week, so stay tuned to anywhere you guys get your social media at the handle at Back to the Blockbuster. Also, for those of you that have listened to our past episodes, know as of July 7th, Playlist has now launched their app on iOS devices, so you guys can listen to us there. They heavily feature us there. It's great. The app is working fantastic, and we really want to put you guys on there if you guys are looking for a different place to get your podcast. But of course, you guys know you can find us wherever you guys listen to your podcasts. Again, that's at Back to the Blockbuster. This has been episode 108. Thanks for joining us again, guys, and we'll see you next time.
Yep. Peace.
Right. Take care of yourselves.